Hello, I'm Otis Corbett, and today I want to share a word about a tale of two cities as I comment on passages from Jonah chapter 3 and Joshua chapter 2. Jonah 3 verses 4 through 10 says, Jonah began to go into the city, going a day's journey, and he called out, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. And the people of Nineveh believed God. They called for a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them to the least of them. The word of God reached the king of Nineveh, and he rose from his throne, removed his robe, and covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he issued a proclamation and published through Nineveh, by the decree of the king and his nobles, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed or drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and let them call out mightily to God. Let everyone turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows? God may turn and relent and turn from his fierce anger, so that we may not perish. When God saw what they did, how they turned from their evil way, God relented of the disaster that he said he would do to them, and he did not do it. Joshua 2:1 and verses 8 through 14 say, And Joshua the son of Nun sent 2 men secretly from Shittim as spies, saying, Go view the land, especially Jericho. And they went and came into the house of a prostitute whose name was Rahab, and lodged there. Before the men lay down, she came up to the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you devoted to destruction. And as soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that as I have dealt kindly with you, you will also deal kindly with my father's house, and give me a sure sign that you will save alive my father and mother, and my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and deliver our lives from death. And the men said to her, Our life for yours, even to death, if you do not tell of this business of ours. When the Lord gives us a land, we will deal kindly and faithfully with you. One of the most famous works of Charles Dickens is A Tale of Two Cities, which is set in both London and Paris about the time of the French Revolution. The opening lines of this book are probably more famous than the book itself, certainly more familiar to most people. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. The citizens of the biblical cities of Nineveh and Jericho might have had similar feelings about their situation, and the outcome of their deliberations would be determined by a decision that their citizenry made. You see, both cities were powerful in their own times. Nineveh was a huge city that took 3 days to walk through, and Jericho was a walled city that was virtually impregnable by an assault from an army of its day. Both cities were prosperous, but they both lived their collective lives estranged from God. Nineveh was certainly a wicked place. And since the only citizen of Jericho named in the Bible, Rahab, was a harlot, we can guess that the moral character of that town was not the best either. The citizens of both cities needed God. There is no questioning that fact. In different ways, but to a similar degree, both cities were confronted with the facts of their relationship to the God of the universe, or actually to the fact of their non-relationship to the God of the universe. Nineveh was confronted by the preaching of Jonah. who, if he was the most reluctant evangelist imaginable, also turned out to be one of the most effective. His message was simple and direct as he called out, "Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be overthrown." An old saying is there's no such thing as a bad short sermon, but this has to be the shining example of the most effective short sermon of all times. Now, Jericho, on the other hand, heard the truth of God through the grapevine, so to speak. They were not confronted directly with a preacher, but instead they observed God's power and might as he dealt with other nearby kings and peoples. Actions speak louder than words, and the actions of God thundered in the distance, growing closer each day like the increasing rumble of an approaching storm. The people of Jericho knew that as powerful as they were in human terms, they were as weak as kittens before the Lord God of the universe. They heard no sermon, yet they trembled in their sandals as they contemplated the power of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, both of these cities had the same spiritual condition, and they were both confronted with the might and righteous judgment of God. But a great difference can be seen in how they responded to this knowledge. The citizens of Nineveh saw the wickedness of their ways and the approaching judgment of God, and they chose the way of wisdom. They repented. They called for a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them to the least of them. Their king agreed with them and called for all people to entrust themselves to God's mercy. Let everyone turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows? Who knows? God may turn and relent and turn from his fierce anger so that we may not perish. The people of Jericho, on the other hand, even as they quaked with fear, simply closed the city gates and hunkered down, waiting for their fate to make itself known. Their response reminds me of the three possible biological responses to a threat or crisis: fight, flight, or freeze. Like frightened little bunnies, the people of Jericho, except Rahab and her family, froze in terror. They froze in fear. And they preferred their fear to the rule and way of God Almighty, and their fate was sealed from that moment on. This tale of two cities ends in a similar way to Dickens' novel, Justice is Served. Nineveh, the city that experienced a revival whose citizens repented en masse, was saved. It was spared God's wrath because the people repented and sought his forgiveness. Jericho, on the other hand, was the city that was set in its ways and its beliefs, and it was destroyed. It received the full measure of God's wrath and judgment because the people failed to repent and they failed to seek his forgiveness. Think for a moment. Nineveh, whose people received the frail and limited message of a frail and limited messenger, was saved. Jericho, whose people heard from many sources and from many ways the powerful acts of God, that city was lost. The difference was not in the message or the messenger, but the difference was how it was revealed and the decision of those who received it. This tale of two cities reminds us of a timeless and all-important fact. Regardless of how we hear the gospel, the crucial element is in our response. And the only response that can save us is repentance. And that's a fact. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with another word that we can share together. Every blessing. I'm Dr. Otis Corbett.